As an amateur and with my single camera, I can't hope to match the output of the professional cameramen working for the television companies, but I can enjoy walking round, filming what goes on in the background to make these wonderful events possible, and I do that with grateful thanks to the Manx TT authorities allowing me to do so. So my first port of call on the 22nd of August was to the pit facilities of the Black Eagle racing team, and one of their significant activities during this festival is the recreation of Bob McIntyre's 100 mile an hour lap, which he did 60 years ago. The bike in view is a faithful recreation of the fully faired Gilera 4-cylinder machine on which Bob Mac performed that feat. The bike was recreated by a company called K Engineering. Michael was in fact successful in repeating Bob Mac's lap, exceeding 100 miles an hour by a small margin, and this short burst of film shows him approaching the corner into Parliament Square on the machine. Here is a picture which I took in 1962 at the 62 TT of Bob Mac and an equally youthful Jim Redman, and it's interesting that Bob Mac and Michael Dunlop have more than a passing resemblance to one another. And here is Michael Dunlop in the Black Eagle pit, standing alongside the two MV Augusta machines which he and Dean Harrison will be riding in the Senior Classic TT. And here is Michael Dunlop's lightweight classic mount, the 250 Yamaha, in his own pit, which is sponsored by Turner Racing. These two machines are the Paddock's machines, the 250 Honda and the 500 Yamaha, which Bruce Anstey will campaign in the lightweight classic and in the superbike race later in the festival. This is the Ripley Land Racing pit with Fred Walmsley there, the renowned engine tuner, dealing with Michael Rutter's 500cc Sealy Matchless. This is Mark Parrott's 500 Norton, which will run in the Senior Classic TT. And this is Josh Brooks' Rotary Norton, which will be campaigned in the Superbike Classic race at the beginning of next week, as will Paul Owen's Yamaha number 59. This is the technical pit of John Chapman Racing. Their MV 500 will be campaigned in the Senior Classic by Ian Locker, and their smaller bikes, the 250 Hondas, will be campaigned by Dan Neen and Ivan Linton. Ollie Linsdell and his dad at Flitwick Motorcycles are very loyal to the Royal Enfield brand, and this is Ollie's larger 500cc machine, which will be campaigned in the Senior Classic, as will Phil McGurk's 500 Beezer number 29. We've now reached the Egley Motorcycle pit, the Swiss concern, who campaign the Vincent-based 500 machine, which is ridden for them by Horst Sager. The engine is the Vincent 500 Grey Flash engine configuration, but the cycle parts are based on those perfected by Fritz Egley, the Swiss hill climb champion at one time. Patrick Godet From France, seen here astride his rider Bruno's Leroy's machine, number 41, is working on parallel lines with the Egley concern, with the same configuration of bike and many shared components. Patrick manufactures new engines at his business in France and has been striving for race success in the Isle of Man for the last 4 years. He has two riders, Bruno Leroy and Lancelot Unisart. This is a Manx Grand Prix bike, a Yamaha XZF R6 campaigned by Ross Orchard, the self-styled Cornish Stig from Bude. Back now with the Classic TT, and this is the 500 Honda of Steve Ferguson. We're now in the pit lane assembly area waiting for the evening's practice, and once again we see the Go Day team in various groupings. You'll notice Cameron Donald with the flat cap in one of the later images. Cameron campaigned of Vincent last year and has a great affinity with the mark and the work that's being done to perpetuate it in its 500cc form for racing. The 1000cc machine, of course, there is no class for it on the Isle of Man any longer. Not since the demise of the Clubman's TT, in fact. This is Alan Bud Jackson's 500 Norton senior classic bike ready for practice. A very smart little Honda 350 which will be campaigned by Yuri Barragan for R&S Racing. Bike number 17 is James Cowton's 500 Norton, entered in the senior classic race. Bike number 7 is Maria Costello's 500cc Grand Prix Peyton, and next to it is Josh Brooks's similar machine. He's riding for Team Winfield. Parked next to Maria Costello's machine is bike number 6, William Dunlop's 500 Honda, which he is campaigning this year for Davies Motorsport. And here is Michael Rutter's Sealy Matchless, which we saw in a rather naked form in the workshop earlier on. We also looked at the MV Augusta of Black Eagle Racing, Michael Dunlop's number 3 and Dean Harrison's number 9. Beautiful machines they are too. Another familiar sight is Ollie Lindsell's big Royal Enfield. Armed with my video camera, I repeated the visit the following day and brought some of those images to life. Once again in the Black Eagle Racing pit we're greeted with the wonderful Gilera, which Michael Dunlop will ride as a tribute to Bob McIntyre's activities some 60 years ago. The smartly turned out bikes campaigned by Laylaw Racing are both Yamahas. Number 1 is Ian Locker's mount, and number 28 will be campaigned by Michael Sweeney in the lightweight classic TT.
That's what I do. I go into the office, sit down, open my email, 10 minutes later go and get me coffee. They got well much, didn't they? Crumbs.
This hive of activity, and naked bikes by the dozen is the headquarters of Team Classic Suzuki, who have 3 riders in the Superbike Classic race: Michael Dunlop, Lee Johnson and Danny Webb.
I lied, Simon.
You did. I'm never ever going to believe you again. Ever.
Well, I told you what a shit fight it'd be. You'd actually turned up for 30 quid a day.
That much for the pay rise. Right.
Well,
That changed your outlook on that, didn't it?
yeah, it's a good point. Good point, brother.
We paid for the privilege of being here.
Yeah. That sounds familiar. That bit sounds familiar.
You know, it makes a small fortune at bike racing, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, start with a big one.
Yeah.
Standing guard over the Davis Motorsport pit is Dodger, a fearsome lovable lad. Davis Motorsport have 3 key riders in the Junior Classic and in the Senior Classic races: Alan Oversby, William Dunlop and Dominic Herbertson. Fine bunch of lads. Pit crew and riders.
Yeah, these were sent from the bottom.
Do what, sorry?
I thought you said you put them in the same.
I haven't touched them.
No, these are what just come out, mate. That's what's in now. But we're going to put them other 3.
This is Martin's though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've never ever touched them cars.
No, you wouldn't have done it.
No, I'm just saying.
They've been touched like that.
We want to put it in.
Alright, random, right, Paul. I know I'm on it, right? We'll try to do what he wants. Yeah, it's the same plug, but it's the wrong end. Ah, right. We've got 2 females. And put a male on that end. Morning.
When they did it now, I think, you know what I mean? Then,
The Mistral racing team that we're looking at in this short clip campaigned 750 Kawasaki's, 2 machines, for their 2 key riders, Dan Neen and Jamie Coward. 14 and 15 were their running numbers in the Superbike Classic TT. The banner at the back of the Obsession engineering pit probably tells you all you need to know about their runners and riders. This is Dave Hewson's 888cc Ducati Superbike, the Obsession engineering machine.
The battery has got as much go in it as a chocolate sponge.
Based on jeans and some sort of armoured trousers if we can. And possibly a pair of MPFM discs.
Briefly. Yeah, they've got stores around there, got trousers and stuff.
Yeah, but they want
There's a
£100 per pair.
There's a few sale ones around there, so
Yeah.
you never know, you might find something.
The Greenhall racing team entered 2 riders in the Classic Superbike race, Horst Sager and Derek Shields, on big Kawasaki's. And in the Junior Classic and the Senior Classic races, Steve Ferguson campaigned 2 Hondas, the 350 and the larger 500 machine. Team York Suzuki relied on the big 1100cc Suzuki machines in the Superbike race for their riders Dave and Gary Johnson.
On my stickers, please.
Another graphic which very conveniently tells us all we need to know about the Tower race teams, runners and riders. And a significant team it is too, and a variety of motive power. This bike from Funky Monk Racing is not an interloper, it's also Alec Whitwell's bike.
Guardian 1040. Yeah.
Jeff Bates, who was also a key member of the Tower racing team, campaigned 2 very smartly turned out Hondas, a 250 in the Junior Classic race and a 500 in the Senior Classic, numbers 50 and 67 respectively. Bike number 46 there is a Manx Grand Prix bike, a 400 Honda campaigned by Daniel Ingham under the Jeff Bates banner in the lightweight race.
It'll just sort of smear it off, won't it? Yeah. So if I was going to go in a different direction with oil.
Bike number 5 is the Turner Racing 250 Yamaha of Dan Cooper, also under the Dan Cooper Racing banner, and Paul Owen's bike is a 250 Honda number 11. I saw Cameron Donald's Norton, the 350 Norton, entered by Macintosh Racing New Zealand, receiving a fair bit of attention from the film cameras in the Parc Fermé. I don't know what was peculiar about the bike, but certainly it had come a long distance to race, and strength to their arm. Clearly this bike too is another of the Macintosh Racing bikes, but I apologise for not being able to identify the rider.
Oh, what's that? So the black cap?
Yeah, AC cap, nice little brown lodge. See, I'm a bit of an anorak. No, but I hope you're running on a lodge plug.
No, it's one of those Japanese versions of a lodge plug.
Yeah. Lost interest.
More Exotica now. Josh Brooks' 500 Patton, the Team Winfield bike.
Sorry, my eyes are watering, sorry.
Although the numbering graphics on this machine are a little confusing, I think it's the Junior Manx Grand Prix bike of Sean Evans, a Kawasaki ZX6R. It's absolutely beautiful presented. I know all about this particular bike, which is a Manx Norton engined special created by Fred Walmsley, the tuner working with Michael Rutter. I also know that it's not a competitor, it's a work of art, I think. Back to racing reality now, as we see bike number 22, which is Mark Parrott's 500 Norton, much more conventional. In the John Chapman Racing workshop, we see Ian Locker's 500 MV Augusta, well stripped down, and the green bikes are 250 Hondas, which will be ridden by Dan Neen and Ivan Linton, number 7 and 8.
What's you on this?
It took me a while to identify this bike, but it's actually Ivan Linton's 750cc Kawasaki, which he will campaign in the Superbike Classic race. I was impressed by the size of the radiator. This is also Ivan Linton's bike. I saw one of them next door. The machine numbers on the machines for Herheim Racing are slightly confusing. In fact, they're very confusing. They're 750 Kawasaki's, and they are the motorcycles allocated to William Dunlop for the Superbike Classic race. His actual racing number is number 6. This is Peter Boast's pit, and his two machines. Machine number 31 is a 600 Kawasaki, which is entered in the lightweight classic race, and the nearer machine number 53 is his Superbike 750 Yamaha.
It's a funny oddball size, that bloody thing. That just goes round. That one doesn't. Oh, is it English?
Back again to the pit of the Swiss Egley team. Their rider Horst Sager had problems in practice the previous evening, and they were busily rebuilding the Vincent 500cc engine, but they were away again that evening. Bike number 46 is Phil McGurk's Manx Grand Prix bike, a Honda CBR 600, which he will run in the Junior Manx Grand Prix. This is what happens if you haven't got a kickstart on your beautiful Black Lightning replica, Vincent Black Lightning that is, as Mr. Fox, who owns the racing team behind him, found out he had problems with his electric start, which was remedied by a racing starting device being used, and then he went on his lap of the island. And Mr. Fox's entrant in the Senior Classic TT race is Alex Sinclair, who rides at number 43. Unfortunately, I think that he too was a non-starter. The modern Vincent Twin in a touring configuration has a slightly more relaxed riding position. Magnificent. This is Dan Stewart's pit. He has a ride in the Superbike Classic on his 750 Kawasaki, and bike number 29 is his 250 Yamaha, which he's campaigning in the Lightweight Classic. A bit like the timing side on my old Vincent. These are Sean Evans' beautifully turned out Manx Grand Prix Senior and Junior Kawasaki's. Somebody else there admiring the BSA Rocket 3. I can't recall the rider, but we've looked at Philip McGurk's bike previously. Back to the Honda and the Sealy Matchless in Michael Rutter's pit. I was forgetting that Chris Swallow is also in the Ripley Land team, and this is his 350 AJ, the 7R. And the poignant sight of John McGuinness, still recovering from his Northern Ireland accident, chatting to a reporter about his new book. The grandstand pit area is a magnet, and it drew me back again the following day, and I found myself starting at the Whiz Norton Racing pit, as did Phil Plater, who was chatting to Josh Brooks in the pit area. Interesting machines, these rotary Nortons. He must think we're following him deliberately, because here he is again in the John Chapman Racing pit, looking at the MV, which is being used in the Classic Parade, I think. And we've looked previously at the bikes of Dan Neen and Ivan Linton in the same pit. However, I'm pretty certain we haven't looked previously at Ewan Hamilton's machine. Number 22 is a 500 Honda, which he's running in the Junior Classic TT, and the 250 TZ Yamaha in the Lightweight Classic. And we're back again at the Egley pit, where their 500 machine is in a state of undress yet again. However, the Patrick Goday team bike, ridden by Bruno Leroy, is seemingly completely in one piece and ready to go, alongside the glorious Egley Vincent twin touring machine. No TT or Manx Grand Prix would be complete without a look at the George Formby tribute gentleman with his Shuttleworth Demon. Was that its name? Anyway, he's always here to please the crowds. Monday the 28th was due to be the race day for the Junior Classic and Superbike Classic races. Unfortunately, it was frustrated by the weather, but preparations, of course, earlier in the day went ahead, and so here's a little record of them. At the Davis Motorsport pit, William Dunlop's garlanded machine from the Senior Classic TT race is on display. Compete with laurel wreath. Congratulations to William, and of course to the support team at Davis Motorsport. Brother Michael's big Suzuki is in the Team Classic Suzuki pit, as is Danny Webb's entry in the same race, number 17.
The bottom line is you're only going to do it fucking once. If you have to do it, you know, one time you get the fuck out. You practice a couple times if you want to, that's it. Yes, exactly. But the bottom line is you're only going to do it fucking once. If you have to do it, you know, one time you get the fuck out.
In the Black Eagle pits, the mechanics are busy with the two junior MV bikes. Number 13 Lee Johnson and number 9 is Dean Harrison's. And a little further down the pit with the yellow plates are the Senior Classic MVs from the previous Saturday race, Michael Dunlop's and Dean Harrison's. This is Matthew Reese's big Kawasaki, the 750, in the Superbike Classic TT race. In the Oxford Products pit, the mechanics are dealing with the big Ducati, the 888cc machine, which is James Hillier's entry in the Superbike Classic race. And the Greenall Racing lads are dealing with Derek Shields' Superbike, the 750 Kawasaki. And this is Horst Sager's machine, number 8, which actually finished third in the race when it finally took place on Tuesday. Well done, Horst. Final preparations too in the Team York Suzuki pit with the bikes of Dave Johnson and Gary Johnson, 1100 Suzukis. Yeah, we've always got this to look forward to each year. Wonderful. Are these both in the second race?
Yeah.
Are these both in the Superbike race?
Superbike race,
Yeah.
yeah. It's Gary Johnson's and David Johnson.
Yeah.
She's got plans for him, mate.
Aye, I know what.
He's around a little bit.
Was this your first time?
No, I came last year.
Ah. Oh yes, you mentioned the cold.
Yeah, the cold. It's drier this year though than last year.
Yeah, a lot better. Must take a picture of you under your blanket.
Where we've been going wrong all these years.
You reckon?
I think we might get the top 10 if we put wheels on.
At least it's got an engine in it.
For now. I don't know how long that engine will stay in there, but I think we can change engines quicker, we can change wheels on these now. It's the thing with these old bikes.
This. Another of Saturday's senior classic bikes, Keith Clark's Manx Norton. Norton still looks the part, doesn't it? Number 49. No, I reckon it's wonderful.
That's a trick camera, isn't it? We did that one. That one's the one that.
William Dunlop's Superbike classic race, now bearing its correct number, number 6. In the Silicon Engineering pit, we see Dean Harrison's 750 Kawasaki receiving its final checks prior to the Superbike race, and alongside it is his dad's outfit, TT sidecar outfit, which will be used, I think, in the parade lap. Well, the weather finally did defeat the race organisers, and these pictures in Parc Fermé tell their own tale. So, off to have a look at the static display of parade bikes. 148 bikes were listed as being in the parade, organised by the Classic Racer magazine. Certainly that number of bikes weren't on display, and to make matters more difficult, the numbers on the machines didn't tally with the numbers in the programme. So I think it's best if on most occasions you just enjoy the bikes. Even I can work out that this is a 3-cylinder Honda.
Trouble with the hits now.
I should say you've gate crashed it.
That's the gate crash. Well, do you know what? Well, the name of our bike club is called the Gate Crashers. Guys, a couple of gate crashes if you put on there, because that's the actual name of our bike club, Gate Crashers Dirt Bike Club.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's our bike club. So,
Robbers fit. Look how close they are to the bottom of the barrel. Take metal away. Must be a reason for it. Maybe. It's lovely.
that's it. Oh, look, we're getting the gears. Look, it's really nice.
There's no Warr in it. That's what I just said.
The rider of this magnificent Ducati SS was listed as Joson Arenilas. Not a name I know, not even a name I can pronounce properly. On the other hand, two bikes now that are eminently recognisable. The unique Britain V-twin, developed by John Britton in New Zealand, and two of them were here on the island, one of which was due to be ridden by Bruce Anstey in the parade. Just enjoy them.
Yeah, that one what it is. That's what I was thinking.
I like that. Yeah. So the top can't come down. Yeah. The top can't come down. And when that's loose enough from there, he's going to want to take it that way anyway. I like it.
Another supremely recognisable and unique machine, the Honda 247cc 6-cylinder machine, which was due to be paraded by Steve Plater. My film of the lead up to Saturday's Superbike TT shows this in far greater detail. I think the last two bikes that we've looked at, the Honda 6-cylinder and the Britain, were the absolute centre of attention in this display. And that, as they say, is pretty much that. It's amazing what one can do when there's no racing, but there's always hope for tomorrow. And in fact, racing did take place on the Tuesday, and a fine spectacle it was.